Let me show y'all something. You see what that says right there? Yeah, you see that? That says March. We got conference tournaments starting today and this weekend going on. In my trying times of anxiety, I have learned to use my breathing as a strength. So I think we should all take a deep breath together, because the next month is going to be absolute chaos, and I am excited. On with the Q&A per usual. Most underrated conference tournament for chaos this week. The conference tournaments that are on this week are a lot of the mid-major ones, which I think are the most beneficial for watching, especially for the casual fan, to get to know the teams that they really have no idea about that are going to be in the NCAA tournament. Summit League tournament is going to be absolutely awesome because they have 4 legit contenders, very well balanced, and they're all very high-powered offensive teams, so you're going to be very, very fun to watch. One of them is St. Thomas, the Tommies, who actually aren't eligible to make the tournament because it's only their 4th year as a D1 program. Awesome coach and offense. They can really shoot the cover off the ball. And if they win the tournament, then the regular season champion, Omaha, is going to get the auto bid no matter what. And Omaha chasing their first tournament appearance in program history. They've been playing really well all year, and they've just got all the vibes. They've been kicking and beating up trash cans in the locker room after wins. I love it. South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, I like a lot. They're battle-tested and proven in the non-conference slate. They beat McNeese State. They played Alabama relatively well. They played Nevada okay. They lost to Boise by 1. And they have a game-breaker player in Oscar Clough. If you don't know who Oscar Clough is, you need to just go watch the Summit League tournament or go watch their games from this year. This guy is an absolute monster and can definitely be one of those like March heroes. North Dakota State, an absolutely wild team. They've beaten Butler and Santa Clara this year. They're 316th in pace in the entire country, but they shoot the most amount of threes, highest three-point attempt rate, and they hit so many. They got shooters everywhere, and they also have a game breaker in Jackson Money, who is a legit NBA draft prospect. He's been playing D2 before this. He's a big 6'10 forward who can do absolutely everything on the floor. I like North Dakota State, but they're also 0-2 versus Omaha, and they're going to have to play them in the semifinals, which is not going to be super easy for them. I like the Jackrabbits a lot, the 3 seed, as like I guess a sleeper in a way. I mentioned Oscar Clough. They also got a great coach in Eric Henderson. We're looking at around a 15 or 16 seed if Omaha wins, probably a 15, maybe a 14 if it's the Jackrabbits or the Bison. Because of those high octane offenses that I mentioned, if it is one of these teams, I would not want to see them if I'm one of the high 2 or 3 seeds in the tournament. I'm heavily tapped into the Big South tournament, really because of High Point. Gotta get on the Husk bus because High Point is like by far the best team in the Big South. They were last year, and they ended up losing to Longwood in the Big South tournament semis, but like even more this year. The gap is huge. Our offense is incredible. 26 rated in the entire country. They got 3 guys on high usage who combined for 43 a game. Kezagifa, Kamani Hamilton, and Damarian Williams. And then they have an absolute demon on the glass in Justin Bodo, who is just a menace of a rebounder. Then they go super deep into the bench. I'm talking like 12 or 13 guys a game sometimes. What I really love about them is continuity. 75% of their production on this year's team was here last year on the team that wanted to get to the NCAA tournament, and they're here now looking for revenge to get there this year. Like they saw last year, nothing is a guarantee. Asheville is always a threat, even though they're not playing great right now. Winthrop is a decent threat, but in reality, like High Point is on an 11-game win streak. Only 2 of them have been by single digits. They beat UAB and North Texas earlier this year in the non-conference slate, which I think are really impressive wins. Team is very good, like legit very good offensively, and realistically, like they should be able to take care of business and get to their first tournament appearance in program history. If they do handle business and get there, they're sitting around like a high 13 seed. Maybe they get into a 12 depending on what happens. I think bad matchups for them are teams that do what they do but just better. The offense and the depth. Teams like Alabama, Kentucky, Missouri, Arizona. Teams like Maryland, Purdue, Marquette, I think could be dangerously good matchups for High Point to watch out for. Does Drake get an at-large if they don't win the Missouri Valley Conference? I personally think that Drake has done more than enough to solidify themselves as an NCAA tournament team. I know that they're not going to feel like 100% confident or they're not going to be locked in until they either win the MVC or see their name in the bracket in 2 weeks. But I'm not really sure what else you could ask of them. Like, they're 27-3. They have quad 1 wins. They have 5-0 in quad 1 and 2. Their resume, their strength of record, their metrics are all very strong. If the season ended today, they would be in the tournament field as an at-large bid if they didn't win Arch Madness. Unless there's like a crazy amount of bid stealers like we saw last year, which is highly unrealistic. There's no way the committee should leave this team out, even if they lose their first game in Arch Madness. If they did, that would essentially be telling Drake that, hey, you went 27-3 in the regular season. You needed to go 29-1 to get in, which is ridiculous. Speaking of bid stealers, who are the most likely bid stealers to watch out for? Last year was a historic year for bid stealers. You had NC State, Oregon, New Mexico, UAB, and Duquesne. Like, it's very, very unrealistic that we see 5 like that. But this year, here are the conferences and teams specifically that I would watch out for. The MVC, if it's anybody but Drake that wins it, it would probably have to be Bradley or Northern Iowa. And realistically, it would probably end up being Bradley. The way that they're playing, the upside that they've shown, they've already beaten Drake once this year, and that team is legit. The A10, I think VCU has put themselves in a good enough spot to feel a little bit comfortable above the bubble. There really are so many teams that can make a run in the A10. Like, it's crazy. Dayton, we know, has the caliber to do it. Don't know if they have the consistency. George Mason has proven in conference that they can win it. St. Louis is really dangerous. And hell, I think St. Joe's is still a team to watch out for. They've been really, really good in their last 8 games. And realistically, on paper, like, they're probably the most talented team in the entire conference. UAB did it last year in the AAC, and I would have to watch out for the AAC again, specifically UAB. North Texas has been really good this year, and even Wichita State has been pretty hot lately. Mountain West could definitely have one. I think San Diego State, New Mexico, and Utah State are going to be fine in the tournament. Boise State is right there on the cusp as a bubble team, so they could get in, but I think Colorado State is the real bid stealer to watch. They've been unbelievable in conference. They have Nick Clifford, who's one of the best players in the entire conference. UC San Diego out of the Big West isn't a lock for the tournament for an at-large if they were to lose in the Big West tournament, but I really feel like they have done enough similar to Drake, but it will be close. The obvious potential bid stealer in that conference would be UC Irvine, who split with them on the season already and has proven that they are also a pretty damn legit mid-major to watch out for. Then you got to watch out for the power conferences, obviously. I think the most realistic ones to watch are Kansas State in the Big 12 and Villanova in the Big East to go on runs in their conference tournament. So if you're a fan of a bubble team, Indiana, Arkansas, Carolina, etc., you're rooting against all the bid stealers I mentioned, and you are rooting for teams like Drake, like VCU, like Memphis, New Mexico, and San Diego State, and UC San Diego to win their conferences. I got a lot of questions regarding who could be this year's DJ Burns and NC State. Let's be honest, it's probably not going to happen, especially making like a Final Four run. DJ Burns was like kind of like a one-of-one guy. Like, I'm sure we'll see something like that in the near future at some point, but it's highly unlikely. I would say the one combo of team player to watch out for is Eric Dixon and Villanova. Eric Dixon completely carries Villanova. He leads the entire country in scoring in a power conference, and the Big East has been relatively weak this year, and Villanova has beaten a couple of the best teams, so I think they're the best example and best opportunity to be like an NC State team, although I don't ever see them going to the Final Four. Who are the worst possible mid-major matchup draws for teams on the 4, 5, 6 seed line? So the best mid-majors that the power teams should be worried about for the tournament. I think you either look for teams that are overall just awesome. UC San Diego and Drake, who have just been incredible all season long, really fit that bill. And you got teams who are kind of like outliers, and they play really unique styles that could make the higher seeds uncomfortable because they haven't seen that before. High Point with their deep rotation and offensive style could be a team like that. Akron with their small ball lineups and shooting firepower could be that. And even a team like North Dakota State with their insane volume of outside shooting could be that kind of team. You also have the other mid-majors that are really good to watch out for, like Yale, GCU, McNeese State. Bradley's been really good. Chattanooga in the SoCon, especially considering some of the experience in the postseason and the NCAA tournament in teams like GCU and McNeese and Yale. And you also got to watch out for teams that have like the one guy game breakers. I'm not saying they're all going to be like Jack Golke, but South Dakota State with Oscar Clough, Jack Simone at North Dakota State, Aniwa Tate Jones at UC San Diego, Bennett Sturts at Drake, even Kwamari Peterson at ETSU is a sleeper. A lot of dangerous mid-majors, and we'll have to see how they play in the next couple of weeks to get into the tournament. Do you think we'll have a national championship with 2 number 1 seeds in it this year? I did get some questions about Auburn, Duke, Florida, etc. also. Very often the 1 seeds do well. I think like 60% of the last 40 years of national champions have been 1 seed. Like, they're 1 seeds for a reason. They're the best teams in the country. With Auburn and Duke specifically, I feel a similar vibe to 2021 Baylor and Gonzaga. 2 best teams in the country basically all season long. They really don't have any true weaknesses, and they ended up meeting in the national championship. Auburn and Baylor are the strong, physical, and really experienced teams in really, really good power conferences that just absolutely dismantle teams on both ends of the floor. And like Baylor was then, Auburn, with a proven coach, are chasing their first national championship in program history. And Duke now and Gonzaga then came from weaker conferences. I'm not saying that the ACC now is equivalent to the WCC, but they're both significantly worse than that top tier of power conferences. 2 awesome teams that the metrics really love and have at number 1. They have premier talent and high expectations from day 1 in the season. I'm gassing them up, but I'm not saying that it's going to be Auburn and Duke and it's nobody else, not even close, because that would be irresponsible of me to say. Florida has been awesome. Houston has been unbelievable. Alabama and Tennessee are right there. And Auburn and Duke don't feel like as convincingly good as Baylor and Gonzaga were that year. Like, those teams were absolutely ridiculous. Baylor, to me, is still the best team I have ever seen in college basketball. If you told me right now that in April in San Antonio, it's Auburn Duke rematch for the national championship, like, I would not be surprised at all. Are you going to watch any March Madness games in person this year? Absolutely. First weekend, I like to stay home because, like, it's just absolute chaos. And at my home, one, I'm in the comfort of my own home. And two, I can control everything. I control the TVs, I control the screens, I control the remotes and what's going on here. Going to the tournament in the first couple of rounds is very, very fun and exciting, and you can see some crazy stuff happen, but I would get so anxious not being able to know what's going on and watch all the other games at the same time. And if I go to a place that has a million screens, like, what if I'm in a bad spot and I can't see one screen? Or what if I can't hear something or something goes wrong? Like, I like the first weekend being in my control and being on my couch. The second weekend, Sweet 16 and Elite 8, I like going to one of those because there's not a ton of games going on all at once. And this year, shout out Jersey, we got Sweet 16 Elite 8 East Regional is in Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center. So I will be there for that. And I will end up at the Final Four in San Antonio and the National Championship. We got to see it all end, of course. What's your favorite part about March? I used to get a little worked up that, like, all these people and sports fans for 1 month and a month and a half of the year become like experts in the sport that I like try so hard to do so well at and analyze all year round. But I have matured and I have come to accept and realize that it's awesome to see the entire country of sports fans and even beyond sports fans like come together into this one collegiate sport for a month and just go absolutely crazy. People taking off work, like everywhere you go, you hear it, you see it, the games are on all the time. And of course, that's a huge part of it. Like the fact that there are games on starting this week with conference tournaments and mid-majors, there's going to be games on at like 11 a.m. on Thursday and Friday, I think, and noon and stuff like that. That is what March is all about to me, like having the screen always on the side wherever you are. And it's also finally getting nice out weather-wise, especially in the Northeast here, at least in Jersey. Like flowers were starting to bloom. The sun was out. I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts. It's the perfect recipe for the best time of the year. Come on now. That's going to do it for this week. I appreciate you all for watching, especially if you're here at the end. If you haven't subscribed and liked and put notifications on, do all that, please. And happy March, happy conference tournaments week. Enjoy them. They go by so fast, but make sure you watch the non-big tournaments and the non-big teams this week because those are the teams that you got to watch out for in the tournament that you really don't know nothing about yet.